Welcome to the podcast that will teach you how to successfully invest in and build steady streams of passive income from the highly lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. Veteran real estate investors Kevin Bupp and Charles Dehart from Mobile Home Park Academy will personally share with you the valuable lessons they've learned along their journey as mobile home park investors, so that you too can learn how to build massive cash flow and huge profits from this extremely lucrative niche. So without further ado, let's welcome your hosts for today's show, Kevin Bupp and Charles Dehart.
Welcome, guys and gals, to the Mobile Home Park Investing Weekly Podcast. We'll provide all the information that you need to know to successfully locate, negotiate, close on, and make huge profits from the lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. I'm your host, Kevin Bupp, along with my co-host and business partner, Brian Spear. Brian, how's it going, buddy?
Life is good, Kev. How about yourself? How are you doing today?
Yeah, man, it's things are good, man. I'm here. I'm breathing. The family's healthy. The sun is shining. Life is good, buddy. How about yourself?
Well, I mean, I share the sentiment. A lot of things to be thankful for here in this beautiful week of Thanksgiving. I must say, I'm a little bit jealous. You told us last weekend, you were giving us a little bit of info before we jumped on here, that you last week with Joanna and your two boys went out on your boat and actually did what the locals do down here in Florida. You know, for everybody that comes down and travels as a tourist down to Florida, you always get all these awesome beaches, right? Clearwater Beach, Siesta Key Beach, St. Petersburg Beach, some of the best sand in the world. Some of the top 10 beaches in the world, always phenomenal. But what you don't know is the locals don't really go to those beaches. What they do is exactly what Kevin did last week when he jumped on his boat and literally went out to an island that is just offshore, off those beaches, has the same exact type of sand, beautiful sand, but you can't get there unless you literally bring your own boat. So Kev went out and did a little bit of camping alongside his wife and kids, and that's phenomenal stuff, man. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit jealous about that.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. It's as I get older, I find that the less and less I like the crowds, right? And so it's our way of getting away from the populated beaches that are overrun with nothing wrong with tourists, because our economy here survives because of the tourists, but it's always nice to have some peace and quiet and actually get to a place to where you have essentially your own private beach, and so it was a lot of fun. The kids had a lot of fun, and that's their second time camping, island camping, or just camping in general. And so pitched a tent, lit up a fire, and enjoyed the evening. So actually could see the stars. So you still had some of the filtering light, because we were only about 3 miles offshore. You still had the filtering light from the city and what have you, but it was kind of nice and very peaceful, and just a great weekend altogether. So it was a lot of fun. Very grateful for the ability to even do that, right? I mean, I absolutely love Florida in general, but I love Florida even more in the wintertime as the weather's kind of broken here, the humidity's gone away, the mosquitoes are slowly dying off, and we truly get to enjoy the outdoors without spraying a can of off on us, and you have to keep the bugs away. But in any event, man, just grateful for all that. Grateful for you, brother. Grateful for even the listeners here. I mean, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now. We wouldn't be talking on this show, and our business wouldn't be what it is if it weren't for those that are tuning in right now, listening to us. So we've been doing this quite a number of years. Kind of reflecting back this time of year, I always like to reflect back and just kind of look at the path that we've taken, the journey that we've taken. Again, over really it's going on 7 years here as far as the podcast is concerned. I launched it. In fact, that's Brian. That's how you and I met. I launched my very first podcast back in 2014, January 2014 to be exact. And that's the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast. And that's how you and I were able to connect and ultimately have built an incredible business together. So that's just grateful for, where that path is taking both you and I in our life and in our business, and with our families, what have you. And then the Mobile Home Park Investing podcast, right? That came about in 2016, which is, what folks are listening to here today. And so we've done a lot of things together, man. A lot of exciting stories, and some bumps and bruises along the way as well. But all in all, just incredibly grateful for where we're at, and for everything else. So how about you, bud?
No, I mean, I couldn't agree more. It is incredibly fulfilling to see the inbound emails that periodically will hit. I mean, usually one comes in every other day or so from a listener that may have just stumbled upon the podcast for the first time. As mentioned, the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast, you started recording that stuff in 2013, started launching actual outbound episodes in 2014. And it's amazing to see the growth of these podcasts, downloaded millions of times by folks in over 190 countries. That's amazing. And without ever taking a dollar of marketing revenue, and no advertising, literally just trying to add value and share your wisdom of real estate investing for the last 20 years with as many people as possible, so that they can avoid some of the hiccups and hurdles that you've stumbled through in your investment journey. So the messages that have come in, that's really what continues to push everybody forward, I feel. So it's just truly exceptional stuff. And the goal is just to try to add as much value as we possibly can every step of the way. By no means are we perfect. Never would, convey that we are, but we do our best to just try to help as many folks as possible, whether you're active or passive or anywhere in between. That's the goal every day, man. We're thankful for anybody who's partaken and served as a stakeholder as part of our team. I mean, whether they're out there as an active investor who's taken some of the information, gone out, actively pursued any real estate asset class, bought an asset, helped their family, maybe changed their family tree. Some of those folks, Kev, you might not even hear from them, right? You don't hear the dogs that don't bark. And I guarantee you that some of those ripple effects have occurred throughout the country. So kudos to you and everything that you've done along the way, buddy. Truly, it's phenomenal stuff.
I appreciate that, man. It's all a team effort, brother. And so, kind of sticking with that same theme, as you and I put our head together as to, what we'd like to share this week on this episode, we're going to keep with that same theme of adding value and just giving back. And we had a few different topics we threw around, and what we felt would have added the most value to those that are tuning in would be to go through some case studies, right? We're in the midst of 2020. We're working towards closing out this. I'm not going to call it a weird year. I'm going to call it a unique year, because it's been unique in many different ways, whether that's good, bad, or somewhere in the middle. Everyone can create their own definition of what they feel about 2020. But at the end of the day, we're rounding this year out, and we thought it would be valuable to share somewhat of a recap of our year. Sunrise Capital Investors, our active investment side of this business, share a recap by going through a few case studies on deals that we've gone full cycle on, meaning that we've purchased, we've executed on the business plan, and then we've exited out of here this year. More specifically, there's 3 parks that we've sold this year. And again, all are very different nature. We bought them with the business plan. We've had the opportunity to add value. We hit road bumps along the way. And then lastly, we were able to maximize the value on each one of these as we went through the exit process. The 3 deals are Alabama, Michigan, and there's one here in Florida. And so we're going to go through a case study of each and every one, kind of rolling through the details of, number 1, how we sourced the deal, number 2, the opportunity that we saw within that respective deal, 3, how we executed on that opportunity, and then number 4, what that looked like on the back end of things, what the internal rate of return looked like, what the equity multiple was, and ultimately what our exit price was. And so with that, Brian, is there anything you'd like to share before we dive into the case study with the very first property?
No, I just think it's prudent to go ahead and convey some full cycle case studies. Oftentimes, folks will always cheer when folks get deals under contract, or folks will always cheer when you close a respective transaction. And that's all well and good. We love that. But the truth is, where you should really be cheering is when you have those successful liquidity events, when you've already executed the business plan, where you have a nice cash out refinance, where you have a nice disposition and can send proceeds back to everybody involved. So that's really when you need to cheer. And it's prudent to do some of these full cycle case studies for everybody that's listening.
Yeah, well, it's funny because it's the fun part of the process is the hunting of deals, right? Hunting of deals, getting them under contract, and then closing them, meaning actually acquiring them. That's the fun part of the process. That's the honeymoon stage. But the real work comes in once you actually close on that property. Now it's time to, not just theoretically talk about the business plan, but actually execute on that business plan. And I can tell you from past experiences of doing, 20 plus parks, nothing ever goes as planned. Sometimes it exceeds expectations. Sometimes it doesn't meet expectations. A lot of times it's somewhere in the middle, but either way, it never goes exactly as planned. And there's ultimately curveballs that get thrown your way, throughout the process. And so again, we're going to kind of share some of the details of these 3 case studies that we've gone from beginning to end with. And so with that, let's go ahead and roll into the first one here, Brian. And this one is one that you're intimately familiar with because it was the very first park that you got involved with as we started partnering together years back. And so this is Blackburn Mobile Home Park. It's a 77-space community located in Athens, Alabama, which is right outside of the Huntsville MSA. So phenomenal market. We purchased this one for $750,000, October 2016. And this one, again, going along with the theme of off market, which is what we preach all the time. This one we sourced via a direct mail campaign off market from the original owner developer of the property. This one had a unique underlying zoning. And so, this was a park that never really got inundated with direct mail campaigns or even cold calling efforts because it was one that was very challenging to find. And so we dig really deep when we build out our database of mobile home parks. And so, again, this one was kind of like a little hidden gem that when we reached out to that owner with our direct mail piece, we were one of the first folks that he ever responded to. And so we were able to literally negotiate directly with the owner developer of that property and strike a very, very attractive, not just price point, but also terms on that deal. We had the owner carry financing. And so as far as the details itself of this property, it was unique in nature that it was the very first property that we've ever purchased that was 100% park-owned homes. And so, equivalent to a horizontal apartment complex is what we like to say. And again, it was a 77-space community. However, when we purchased the park, there was only 45 occupied lots. So physically occupied lots that had homes on them. All 45 of those homes were park-owned homes. Now, one of the unique aspects as well, this community was that the owner was doing a horrific job of operating it. This was his very first mobile home park he had ever built. However, he was not an inexperienced developer. He had been developing apartment complexes for decades and owned thousands of units all across Alabama and in the Southeast. And, I'm not sure the exact story here of why he developed this mobile home park. However, what I can tell you is that he was not running it efficiently. It was not that old of a community being developed in 2001, so fairly newer infrastructure when compared to the majority of other mobile home parks you might find out there. So a fairly newer infrastructure. When he built this park, he basically bought 77 brand new mobile homes and filled this in and turned it into a horizontal apartment complex. Entering into this community, not only did it have a inefficient operations, but also there was multiple other aspects that we felt would allow us to not only lower that expense ratio, but improve the overall value, be able to attract better residents to the community. And so first and foremost, the value add plan that we put in place is pretty straightforward and simple. We power washed all the homes. A lot of these homes, they're all metal siding, metal roof homes, very similar layouts of each, a very similar look at each. In fact, he bought them all from the same factory. And so they were all white and on the outside, lots of mildew. So we went through and power washed every single home. In addition to that, there was a windstorm that had occurred in this community about 3 years prior. And that windstorm essentially ripped off a lot of the skirting in the community. It tore it off. There's bits and pieces of skirting all over this community. And this owner never repaired it. He never repaired the missing skirting. He never even went as far as picking up the skirting that had been, thrown across the community and landed in different places. There was, skirting hanging in trees. There was skirting in the back, piece of the property. I mean, it was just all over the place. And it looked like a war zone. And, the surprising part was that when we found out that storm had happened years prior, and he never turned around and fixed the damage. And so we immediately reskirted every single home in that community. And not only that, another cosmetic enhancement that we always like to make that makes the biggest difference in the world. It's probably other than power washing, it's probably one of the biggest value add, inexpensive enhancements that one can make is vinyl shutters, shutters on the side of each window. None of these homes had shutters on them. It looked like a government compound. I mean, Brian, you can probably elaborate on that a little bit, but when you rolled into this community, number one, all the skirting was missing, or at least half of it. And then every home was white and it was the same exact home. It literally felt like you were kind of driving into the Twilight Zone. It was like an army or military barracks. And,
I just, you're reminding me of those days when we first started driving through the community, and I spent a little bit of time there the first month we took down that respective park. And truly, while that looks unappealing. It's a downtrodden community with a tired owner. That's really what signals a phenomenal opportunity, because that stuff is easy to fix. It's so easy to fix that. You can rectify that within the first month of ownership, and the residents sincerely appreciate you going in and ultimately, from the owner's perspective, just ensuring that the residents understand that you care about how this community looks. You care about how these residents are living, and it changes their perspective. But when other folks see that stuff, they view it as a trailer park, right? As a 1-star or 2-star tired, downtrodden community. But that's really the good stuff. If we can go in and rectify those light value add projects, that's much easier than having to go infill 50, 60, 70 different vacant lots. We like the light value add turnarounds so much more.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, getting back to it, it really was cosmetic enhancements made all the difference in the world. So that was kind of our first phase. Again, adding shutters, we did landscaping, we provided all the residents with their own, real trash bins. A lot of the residents had a big problem in there was the residents had their own trash bins, or they didn't have trash bins at all. And so what would happen is they'd put the trash out on trash day, or the night before trash day, a raccoon would get into it, or the wind would blow, and there'd be trash in that park, and it would be everywhere. And so a simple solution was providing everybody with a large, heavy duty trash bin. In addition to that, this community was on septic systems, and the owner had basically hadn't done any maintenance to the septic system for many years. There was no issues with it per se, but we went in and pumped every tank. We serviced the pumps on the lift station, what have you. Again, just really trying to alleviate any future major mechanical problems that might occur, shortly thereafter our acquisition. Another aspect of the community that we immediately were able to achieve a value add with were the water meters, and so this was on it was on county water, and the strange part is that they included the water in the monthly rent. However, there were already meters in place, and so there were meter boxes in place in this community. There were meters in there. They just failed to ever take the time to read them and bill back appropriately for the usage. And so very quickly we identified the meters that weren't operating, replaced them, and within a few months we were able to start billing back and recapturing the majority of the expense of the water, which is fairly significant. So
yeah, it's amazing to me just how many owners out there actually have ultimately installed water meters but don't bill back. I mean, we've seen this on numerous occasions now, and it's truly baffling as to why that's the case. When you go through a P&L and you see a massive line item for water, literally tens of thousands of dollars that literally gets washed down the drain every year with a very, very simple fix, promoting water conservation. You're helping a lot of different folks here, and it actually saves them dollar for dollar as opposed to doing a full throttle rent increase. If you simply bill back for water, you're likely going to help them promote water conservation, and dollar for dollar, they're going to do better over time. So you're able to make the community operate more efficiently. You're able to save water. It's really mutually beneficial when you do bill back for water, and ultimately folks pay for what they use.
Yeah, I agree. We're actually buying a park right now that has the same situation. It's got literally water meters in the park. However, they've never billed back. They've never utilized the meters. And so, one of the other things that really the water meters help outside of just conservation is when you're buying a community such as Blackburn that has municipal water, but is on a private sewer system, so septics, or even if it's a wastewater treatment plant, it doesn't matter. If it's on a private sewer system, those sewer systems get overloaded if they have too much water flowing through them. And so by creating the conservation effort, not only do you save folks money, but you also save the wear and tear on your septic systems, because if a leach field gets inundated with water, it's ineffective. It doesn't work. And now not only do you have a very high water bill, you also have folks that are basically calling you because their toilet's backing up or their tub's backing up in their house, and that's not a good thing. So multiple different solutions that are created by installing a water meter system in the community. One of the other aspects of this community, being that it was a park-owned home community, what we were able to do is we were able to go in and effectively reset the lot rents. Again, it was 100% park owned, so there really wasn't an effective lot rent in place. It was just rental units. That's all. That's how they advertised it. It wasn't hey, we're charging $250 a month for the lot rent and then $250 a month for the home rental. It was just rental rates are $475 or $495 a month, and that was it. And so what we did is we went in and we basically allocated a lot rent and a home rent portion immediately. And we were able to essentially reset that lot rent to $300 a month, which was basically at market. So we took it from no lot rent to a market lot rent, which immediately increased the value of that community. Brian, I don't know if you want to add anything else there to that part of it.
Oh, this is great stuff. And it's a golden nugget to anybody that's out there actively buying mobile home parks. When you stumble across a park-owned home community that does not have a discrepancy amongst the lot rent and the home rent, it's literally just all lumped in. They're just renting out the homes themselves, again, operating as a horizontal apartment complex. You have one chance to reset the lot rent and reset the value of the community. As you guys know, banks don't capitalize the income from the mobile home, from the home rent itself. They only capitalize the lot rent because the lot rent is viewed from the bank's perspective as recurring income that will stay there in perpetuity. However, the mobile home rent, they don't view as income that will remain there in perpetuity because mobile homes depreciate in value. So when you're buying a community that's completely park-owned home, you need to do your best when resetting that lot rent when resetting the rent to ensure that you're maximizing the value of the community by maximizing the lot rent and having the home rent be sufficient to cover the expenses associated with renting out that respective home. The goal should not be to make the mobile home side of the business exceedingly profitable. The goal should be to make the mobile home side of the business net neutral and then maximize the lot rent so that when you go back to the bank and you show them the P&Ls and you're going to do a cash out refinance or sell the property, that you've maximized that recurring lot rent and ultimately will be able to capitalize the most amount of NOI to drive the highest value possible. And that's what we did here. As mentioned, there was no lot rent. I think at the time they were like $475 again. And again, when we move lot rent to $300, that only leaves on a monthly basis about $175 per month of revenue to take care of any of those respective, quote, home expenses. When the resident owns their own home, of course, they take care of all the renovations inside of the home, whatever they may be. But when we're renting the home, we're taking care of that, whatever those are. So over the course of the year, as you can imagine, $175 a month doesn't go too terribly far. You have one, pseudo major renovation that needs to be done on the home side, and it wipes out all the revenue for the entire year. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. It is. The goal for us is not to be in the homes business. We do our best to sell those off as quickly as possible via lease options. But anyway, a golden nugget for those out there that are doing the horizontal apartment complex model, try to reset the lot rent and get it as high as possible. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity to do that and transition the park from a park-owned home community over to a resident-owned home community.
Yeah, and what we found is that when you take that approach to it and then you turn around and convert these rentals, which is what we did, we converted them into to lease with options to buy at a higher monthly rate. $475 was very low for that market. Mm-hmm. The market was really in the $600 to $650 range, and so what we have found over the years, not just with this community, but all the other communities, that in this, the demographic that you're typically serving here, which is the affordable housing demographic, the folks are they're more prone to shop on monthly pricing versus, what is the lot rent and what's the home rent portion. In their opinion, it's what can I afford in my monthly budget? And so long as your total monthly payment between the home rent and the lot rent is within their monthly budget, it doesn't really make a difference what your monthly lot rent is. And Brian, I don't know if you've seen anything different, but like generally speaking, we try to get that lot rent to market right away if we're doing a reset.
Yeah, that's the goal. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. It affords us the opportunity to season the financials a little bit earlier on in the duration of the hold period, so the bank we can go back to the bank a little bit sooner after acquisition. So agreed entirely.
Yeah. And then moving on here, as far as any additional value add, everything we just went through there was what we kind of classify as light value add. It doesn't take a lot of laborious efforts to get there. It takes time, it takes energy, it takes resources. However, when we talk about heavy value add, we're talking about infilling, right? We feel like infilling vacant lots is kind of the highest hanging fruit on the tree, right? Low hanging fruit is cosmetic enhancement, rent increases, operational efficiencies, and then the high hanging fruit is infilling vacant lots with new or used mobile homes. And so in this community, pretty pretty cut and dry. We brought in 15 homes over the course of a couple years, utilizing the cash program, and ultimately we're able to leave a little bit of meat on the bone for the next buyer in line. And so there were still some vacant lots in the community that they could infill, and we always like to do that. We always like to maximize the value, but yet leave a little bit of meat left on the bone for that next buyer in line, so that they see a perceived value of getting in, and there's some upside left in the equation. And so as far as the outcome of this community, again, we purchased it 2016 for $750,000, and we just exited out of it October of 2020, so October of this year, for $1.45 million. This represented a 44% internal rate of return for our investors and a 4.2 times equity multiple to our investors. So pretty phenomenal deal, Brian, if I'd say so myself.
I agree. And again, we always talk about how phenomenal the deals are. We express how beneficial it is to go off market direct to owner, but the proof is in the pudding. I mean, it's this very simple, straightforward business model. Go off market, negotiate direct to owner, buy with a margin of safety, execute the business model, and then ultimately this is the result. Years down the road, so long as you buy right, the tailwind of the macroeconomics in this industry, the long-term tailwind of very high demand for affordable housing, very low supply of affordable housing, it shakes out over time. And again, the results speak for themselves. I mean, a 44 IRR over a handful of years and a 4.2x multiple on invested capital is exceptional. Truly is exceptional.
Yeah. And so moving on here, let's get to the second deal. The second deal that we exited out of this year, went full cycle on, was Orange City Mobile Home Park. That's a 65-space community located in Orange City, Florida. We purchased this one for $1.4 million in 2017. We sourced this deal from the Bring Kevin a Deal initiative. So for those that aren't aware, we typically will pay a referral or finder's fee for folks that bring us an opportunity. This was brought to us by a listener of the podcast. And so it was truly an off-market deal, hadn't been listed, and we wouldn't have known about it without a listener bringing it to our attention. As far as the details of this park and the opportunity that we saw, I think simply put, Brian, I like to call this park as just being tired. It was just a tired park. The owner that had it, he must have been tired as well, because he surely didn't put any energy into this community over the years that he owned it. So, decades of mismanagement. It just, it was worn out. The homes were just, the roofs were rusty. The landscaping was poor. The trees were overgrown. Again, just lots of various cosmetic issues throughout that community. As far as the value add here, simply put, the first step was cleaning it up. And so we power washed all the homes, even all the tenant-owned homes. And so we just set aside a budget to improve and clean up the entire community, and not take the time or energy that was going to be required by having the actual residents that own their own homes clean up their homes. It was that bad to where we just wanted to go in, set forth the budget, show some good faith, create some goodwill with the entire community, and power wash every single one of the homes. We even did cool sealing on the roofs of the tenant-owned homes, okay, the ones that had really rusty roofs, because again, we wanted to just go in and clean up the entire community all at once instead of doing it piece by piece. We also repaved all the roads throughout the community. We added a landscape buffer along the entrance. It was on some of a busy road, a 4-lane road. And so a landscape buffer greatly enhanced the entrance of the park, along with some white decorative fencing. Again, went in and did a massive amount of tree work. There were just, years and years worth of deferred tree maintenance, lots of very large grand oak trees. So beautiful trees, but again, had not been probably trimmed or pruned in, a decade or two. A few of the other aspects that we improved in this community, the sewer system was a little aged, had some challenges with it. It was on county water and it was on septic. The septic system were not individual tanks, but they were, but it was a master leach field that occupied an acre of land in the back half of the community. And so there was 2 main leach fields in that septic system. One of them was struggling. It was older, had some issues with it, had a lot of roots growing into it, and just again a lot of deferred maintenance. So at the tune of about $100,000, we replaced and improved and upgraded that entire septic system so that residents would not have any issues with backing up sewer systems or tubs or what have you. And then lastly, as far as the low-hanging fruit value add, we installed digital water meters on each and every lot to promote water conservation. As far as what the outcome looked like on this community, again, just to recap, we purchased it for $1.4 million in 2017, and we were able to exit out of this in August of this year, so August 2020, for $2.3 million, and this represented a 20% internal rate of return for our investors. A few of the other aspects along the way, the couple of years that we owned this, we were able to raise lot rents from $315 to $425 over that 3-year span of time. And Brian, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add to this deal, but this was kind of a buy the book, black and white deal, buy at X, sell it at Y, and execute on the business plan accordingly. And it went smooth on this one.
I agree. This one was right down the fairway. I mean, this is a nice, light value add project that I would say is very typical for what we do and what is standard, I would say, in just mobile home park investing in general. As you guys know, on the 1 to 5 star spectrum, the 1-star stuff we'd consider more of a trailer park, as it were, the old drug, sex, rock and roll, that sort of stuff. We don't play in that sector. The 5-star stuff is, the manufactured housing sector where homes sell for $150,000, $200,000. There's bingo on Fridays. Everybody drives a golf cart in the community. That's great, but that's also not where we live. That's more of a lifestyle choice community. We're in the blocking and tackling and affordable housing, 2 to 4 stars. We like to buy the stuff that is truly a mobile home park that's a 2, 2.5, maybe 3-star mobile home park, and improve it up to a 3, 3.5, 4-star style mobile home park that just provides affordable housing for everybody involved there. And, this deal, I really enjoyed it. It's something that makes you, it reminds you to not take your preconceived notions about what value is when you're going in to a given asset. And I say that because these homes that are inside of the community are rather small. While we're certainly buy, improve, and hold investors, I consider ourselves buy, improve, and watch investors. If somebody's willing to pay us a price that is over and above the intrinsic value of the asset, we're willing to entertain the offer. But in this asset, the real reason that we decided to sell it, we'd maximize the value, and there's risk associated with the small lots inside of this community. Mm-hmm. The homes themselves were relatively modest in size. There's a lot of 2-bedroom, 1-bath homes. There was some 1-bedroom homes in that respective community. And when you're coming in from an outsider's perspective, especially if you're bringing your own capital, looking to buy mobile home parks, oftentimes you have preconceived notions of what you feel value is and what you feel the resident would value. And again, with the homes being so small, you may not have appreciated just how much the residents liked that style of housing in that market. We were, providing by far the most affordable housing in the immediate vicinity, and massive demand for these homes, even though some of them were very, very modest in size, 500, 600, 700 square feet. Some of them were modest in size. In any event, ultimately, we were able to increase the goodwill in the community, turn around the aesthetics, breathe new life into the community. And for that reason, folks were willing to pay. And I would say residents were happy to increase their lot rents from $315 to $425 over that 3-year period, as demonstrated by an increase in both physical and economic occupancy. From my perspective, people vote with their feet. If they weren't happy about living there and did not want to, they certainly did not have to. They could have moved on, obviously. But we provided significantly more value after going in and injecting some capital expenditures into the park, making it significantly nicer, and ultimately, again, just executing the business model. It was a win-win-win for everybody involved. It's a win for the residents. They've got a much nicer place to live. It's a win from the investor's perspective. They're able to generate a nice quality rate of return. It's a win from our perspective. Truly, everybody wins in this sort of scenario.
Yeah, I'm glad you made a point to say that, we really are holders more than we are sellers. But, as you guys will notice, as your business plan evolves, right? If you're just getting started in this business, you might have some targets as to, what type of communities you'd like to own today, what that overall profile looks like. And as you stay in this business or continue this business for years down the road, you'll find out your business will evolve. It might change, right? You might change your focus and shift to maybe more stabilized communities versus value add, what have you, or instead of 40 lot communities, you might be buying 140 lot communities, right? And so that's really what's happened with our business over the years as we've evolved, and we've kind of identified the communities that don't fit the overall long-term profile profile of what we'd like to own. And in this one, as Brian had mentioned, we've already maximized the value here, some risk associated with the very small lots. And so we, sought to exit out of this and pass it on to the next investor in line. So with that being said, Brian, I'd love to move on to the third and final case study of 2020, if we could. You cool with that?
Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
Good deal. So the third one here is Huron Estates Mobile Home Park, and this is a 111 space community located up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, Sheboygan, Michigan. We purchased this one for $1.4 million in July of 2018, and this one was another unique deal. Again, all three of these are very different than the next one. This was actually a distressed CMBS loan that we purchased at an auction. So it was a term default to where the borrower had exceeded his 10-year term, had not refinanced out of the loan, and so it went into special servicing and then ultimately ended up on the auction block. And we found this deal from a podcast listener. So someone that tunes into the show each and every week is not in the mobile home park space, but ultimately is in the distressed commercial debt space, and made us aware of this opportunity. And so we had never, up until that point in time, we had never purchased a distressed note. And so again, this was a very new, playing field for us, but ultimately we went forward with the deal, purchased it at the auction. Again, $1.4 million all in, and proceeded with a deed in lieu process with the note holder of that community, or the owner of that community. And as far as the details of that park itself, again, just really goes back to the typical value add play. Years of mismanagement, being that they defaulted on their loan, they probably have defaulted on other aspects of the business. And so years of mismanagement, lots of parts of the community that needed, attention, just cosmetic attention. The overall bones of that community and the infrastructure were amazing. I mean, it was municipal utilities. It literally almost touched the Walmart parking lot. It was a phenomenal layout, wide streets, sidewalks, curbs, gutters, what have you. It just was run into the ground. It wasn't taken care of, right? It needed a lot of TLC. And so, when we purchased it, it was operating at approximately a 74% expense ratio, which again, as you guys know, if you've been listening to us for any amount of time, you'll know that 74% expense ratio is not sufficient, and you're going to be losing money if your property is running that inefficiently. And the 74% expense ratio was a result of a litany of factors. A few of the big ones were the community had massive water leaks that went on for months and years without attention, right? And so just underground leaks before they actually would hit the meter of the resident's home. And so the park bill, was substantial, and they were recapturing only a small fraction of that total monthly expense. Also, the landscaping was unkept. It was messy everywhere. Lots of tree work needed. The roads weren't in all that great a shape. Lots of potholes. I mean, in that part of the country, they have pretty extreme weather. And so asphalt it needs attention on an annual basis. And many years had passed without them giving any attention to the condition of the roads. And so our value add process with this community, again, very straightforward. There was a number of park-owned homes that we had acquired with the deal. A number of those were vacant when we took over the community. So we immediately went forth with doing park-owned home renovations, rehabbing those homes, getting them in either rent or sale-ready condition. We handled all the deferred maintenance that I had outlined above, tree work, roads, fixing all the water leaks, what have you. Another big factor here was the on-site management. They had been around for a number of years, and so they were underneath the tutelage of the old owner, which, bad habits breed bad habits. And so we found that, part of the problem was the on-site management. And so we, immediately worked towards replacing the on-site management with some fresh blood, someone that had a fresh perspective of, really playing out our vision of what this community could be, not what it was today. A few other aspects here is we worked really hard to stabilize the poor collections, just really became a black and white situation of no pay, no stay. And we enforced that from basically the get-go going into that property, and continued enforcing it throughout the ownership of that community. And then lastly here, some of the other things that we realized is that although the community had water meters, there was a lot of them that weren't working. So once we fixed the water leaks, we realized that we still weren't recapturing, as much of the expense of the water usage as what we should have been. And we identified that there were at least 30 plus meters that were not working properly or working at all. And so we immediately went to replace those meters so that we could accurately charge for each of the residents' usage. And the outcome of this community, again, kind of right down the fairway. We owned it for just a couple of years, handled all the value add components, and then ultimately sold this year, again, October 2020, for $2.25 million. And that represented a 36% internal rate of return for our investors and a 2.54 equity multiple. So again, a pretty solid deal, Brian, if I might say so myself. Anything you'd like to add to it?
No, man, I couldn't agree more. Pretty solid. I think it's a solid understatement there, the understatement of the year. Life is good. These have all been wins, clearly. The goal, is to provide high quality risk adjusted returns. This asset class is exceptional. You guys wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you didn't believe in the merit of the asset class. It's nice to show you what is there at the end of the rainbow. You're putting in a lot of work. Often folks that are out there listening are grinding away, doing those outbound cold calls, doing those direct mails campaigns. And sometimes it's tough if you're not getting the immediate response that you were seeking. But so long as you continue to struggle and care to work at it, eventually, from our perspective, you will be able to uncover one or two of those assets that can truly change your family's tree if you continue to persist. It truly is all about persistence, finding these deals. They come in all shapes and sizes. Each of them are a little bit different, but the business model in general, from a 10,000 foot view, is fairly simple and straightforward. Light value add projects, off market direct to owner, buy with a nice margin of safety right at acquisition, execute the business plan, and then go back to the bank, either for a refinance or disposition. So, hopefully you guys will gain some value out of listening to some of the full cycle case studies that we just walked through here, to keep you motivated as you're looking to find additional assets for your portfolio. Again, more and more folks have come into the space. A ton of sharp money has come into the space seeking to allocate capital to manufactured housing, but that does not mean that all of the good opportunities have been acquired. Far from it. We uncover phenomenal opportunities still each and every week. And I would go so far as to say that those lists, back in the day when we started creating our own list, that didn't even exist. There was no list that you could go buy and seek to market to owners. Now you can locate lists online, but I can promise you that those lists still don't have every single mobile home park throughout the country. I know this because we've already mapped throughout the country, and our Kirk Bausch, the gentleman who actually does our databasing on a day-to-day basis and oversees that entire process with a litany of virtual assistants, still uncovers mobile home parks that we have not located. And it tells me those are phenomenal opportunities that are ripe for your reaching out to them. So in any event, hopefully that provides you guys with some motivation to keep grinding away, trying to build your portfolio in the space.
Yeah, no, and I think that's, Brian, that's one of the reasons why we do this podcast. I mean, it's to help each and every one of you on your journey. We had help, we had mentors along the way, and so we really enjoy giving back, and hopefully we're able to help you guys avoid some of the bumps and bruises, that you're going to face that we ultimately took to get where we're at today. And I think I can say that I get as much, or we get as much joy out of turning around mobile home parks like the 3 case studies we just went through as we do helping others, find their way in this niche, whether you want to be passive or active, what have you. Again, this is far from mobile home park investing is far from a passive investment. I mean, there's, I guess it could be passive, Brian, if you bought a, 55 plus fully stabilized community that had direct build, city utilities, county owned streets, right? I mean, even then it's probably not 100% passive, but that's probably about as passive as it gets, but that's an anomaly. The typical deals that are out there that you're going to run across are going to take work. They're going to take energy, effort, and resources on your part. And just, we're here to help you along the way if you need help. In fact, that's one of the reasons I do my Friday calls. I've been doing them for about 6 years now, where, folks can jump on the phone with me on Friday afternoon for a 30-minute time slot and talk about anything related to real estate investing, but, also mobile home park investing. A lot of those calls are related to mobile home park investing, folks that are looking to get into this niche, what have you. And so with that, Brian, anything else we'd like to cover here before we say goodbye and say happy Thanksgiving to everybody?
No, I would just say this. As Kevin mentioned, we're trying to help as many people as possible along their mobile home park investing journey. And obviously, for those that are active, feel free to continue to grind away. But for those that are passive, we obviously have Sunrise Capital Investors to help you allocate capital passively to the space, should you choose to do so. As you guys know, we launched Fund 3 last month, and we've had a great response from everybody out there. We've been able to already acquire one respective deal. We've got 3 more under contract. would welcome the opportunity to have a conversation with you if you're interested. We've received a litany of different FAQs over the past month. So what we're going to do is put a webinar on the docket next week. And if you have an interest in attending that webinar, you can go to sunrisecapitalinvestors.com/webinar. Again, sunrisecapitalinvestors.com/webinar to get signed up. And that goes for the active guys too. Anybody that's out there actively involved in the space. At some point, you may seek to raise capital, and you guys can jump in and learn what we do when we're presenting a respective fund to our investors so that they can jump on, learn more about mobile home parks in general, our team specifically, and then more specifically still, the fund or that individual investment opportunity. So feel free to jump on, learn about what we've got going on behind the scenes, and we'll have an FAQ section on the back end where you guys can ask literally anything that you'd want. We're happy to jump on and answer any questions that you have, try to help you in any way we can. Okay. So that's all I got, Kev.
Yeah, that's all I got as well, buddy. So with that, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. We appreciate you. We're grateful for you. And brother, I'm grateful for you too, man. So happy Thanksgiving to you, Brian.
Happy Thanksgiving, man. Well, best of wishes to you and yours. Tell Joanne and the kids I said hello, man.
Alrighty, guys. That's all we have. So you guys take care. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you next week.
Congratulations for taking the necessary steps to achieving massive success through the highly lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. Be sure to visit our website, mobilehomeparkacademy.com, to download your free digital ebook version of the 21 biggest mistakes investors make when buying their first mobile home park and how you can avoid them. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe to our free monthly mobile home park investing newsletter, which is jammed full of valuable tips, tricks, and strategies to help you accelerate your path to success as a mobile home park investor. More information about this podcast and its hosts can be found by visiting mobilehomeparkacademy.com.